My name is Temmink. I'm 28. I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia, and I love to dance. I'm a costume designer with a background in sculpture and textiles, and that was a career that's really evolved from a love of making things by hand. My dad's a carpenter and my mom is an artist, so growing up, I mean, the first thing I remember doing was painting cardboard boxes with paint, and my mom taught me how to sew. And when I got out of college, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that it would have something involving working with my own hands. My first experience traveling happened through a Watson Fellowship, which was a year of solo travel studying fashion and textiles. And for me, this was a turning point in my life because I had never traveled alone to a country where I couldn't speak the language. I had really not traveled much outside of the US at all, and getting to travel through the lens of working with craftsmen and weavers and dyers really showed me how you can live a really beautiful life, and the many facets and the ways that people construct a livelihood for themselves. And also just proving to myself that I could travel alone, that I could navigate transportation and visas, and all of that was such an exciting experience. And so that trip led me to Indonesia, Japan, India, Uganda, Ghana, Tanzania, and Turkey. So it was such a whirlwind of different cultures and different approaches that, you know, you come back from that completely changed. And I definitely noticed that, and I noticed that that trip really inspired the work that I do now, making costumes and textiles. I mean, I didn't care about textiles. Who cares about textiles when you grow up in the United States? But when you get to see the culture and the people and sort of the life that's formed around making textiles, it's so inspiring. It's just, there's something so beautiful and so rich about those experiences that I had. That's something that I really wanted to continue pursuing. Having that experience from traveling really brought me back to costumes, because something about being able to build your own identity in a way that's very artistic and expressive felt like I had a really strong connection to that didn't quite carry through to the other fields I'd explored. So, you know, after kind of this year of traveling and this year of exploration, I decided that costumes was something I wanted to explore. And I didn't really know what that meant, but I started building headdresses and making simple pieces. And from there, it's grown into building these really structural pieces for fashion shows and drag queens and for runway and theater and just all of these fun projects that have really come up along the way. Including this really incredible opportunity in New Zealand, which is sort of the World Olympics of costume design. And my work was selected and featured in that show this past year, and got to go to New Zealand and to see my work on stage surrounded by these top international designers was such a thrill. And it, you know, it makes you feel like there's really a world here, and there's something about this expression that's really meaningful to so many people. And yeah, it's just something that I really believe in and I'm really passionate about. As a woman, I feel like at this time in my life, I'm lucky enough to not have to worry about my gender or have to think about it so much. Sometimes when I travel, I become more aware of it, but I feel like being in a costume field, I have a lot of freedom to express myself without having to worry so much about whether I should be more masculine or more feminine. And yeah, I grew up playing sports with my dad, and I feel like I have more of a I have a lot of masculinity mixed with sort of being feminine. And yeah, so I feel like it's a question that doesn't come up for me as much as it might for other women. I feel like I come at fashion from a really alternative perspective. I'm not the person that's looking at the big designers and really following the current trends, but I think what I'm really interested in is the people that are behind the stories that come out in clothing, because I think clothing and fashion really flourish in sort of places of political, not unrest, but just of kind of conflict, because it's this really strong tension between wanting to be a part of something or wanting to express yourself as being slightly apart. And Morocco, to me, is just one of the most interesting places to look at this contrast, because not only is it a culture that's made up of a mix of people who have come at different times and under different sort of political situations, but there is a really strong history of identity through dress, and then there's also an influx through tourism and through other methods of kind of more Western dress. And to me, it's not the question of like, you know, is it traditional or is it modern? I mean, you know, you're not going to wear your grandmother's kaftan. Like there's modernization in sort of like a cultural identity of dress, and then there's also sort of an external influence. And I think that all of that, seen through emerging designers' eyes, of like what is the real debate here? Like what is this tension that people our age are really struggling with, and how are they expressing that through clothing? Like to me, that story is what it's all about. I mean, you can wear whatever you want and feel great, and that's awesome. But I think it's what's represented by those identities that's so captivating to me.